let's talk about the training experiences and process, learning how to wrestle, because it is, intense. You're at a wrestling school or you're setting up rings. I've had people on the show talk about, training, on the road, basically learning on the job. What was your experience like learning how to wrestle?
Well, you have to understand this. I was a superior athlete. My wife will tell you she was a star softball player in the snow. She's at 240 pounds. She said, I'll race you. And I never remembered that said this not too long ago. She told the story. She goes, you smoked me. You left me like I was standing still.
Mhm.
I was just a freakazoid. I would lift weights that were ridiculous. I could break shit, bend shit, lift cars, trucks, lifted back of trucks, cars, you name it. And I always had that strength. So the training for me, by the time I broke into wrestling in 1986, I was an amateur wrestler in junior high and high school. I was a junior Olympic national champion in weightlifting. I was a black belt jiu-jitsu. I was dropping people without hurting them on their heads and backs and stuff in the yards as a kid. By the time I got in the ring, which was on the boardwalk in Seaside Heights, New Jersey, in the heat of the day, uncovered where that canvas would get so hot that we would have to hose it down before we could actually lay on it and work out. Trained with Ted Petty. Um, I knew Gary Capetta. Gary Capetta owned the pier on the boardwalk in Seaside Heights, New Jersey, where this ring was set up to run shows through the summer. So I didn't break in that there though. I broke in at Sussex County Horse and Farm Show up in
Okay.
Sussex County. We got up there for some reason. It was Jersey, so I don't know why we didn't think we needed EKGs, but I was new. They put six of us in the back of an EMT van and drove us to the hospital. We got EKGs in the hospital, and then they drove us back. And the guy's putting up chicken wire. There was a stadium there, and the ring was set up on the track, and he was putting up. I said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "These people, they don't see nothing like this here. They get crazy every year." I'm like, "What?" Sure enough, it was a captive audience. So, in other words, during the fair, they make an announcement over in the rodeo thing. Pro wrestling show starts, and man, it was nuts. And that day, I took home. I drove Ivan Putski to the airport because I was living in Newark area. And he took, was flying out of Newark. He sat in my back seat, talked about himself the whole way, and left orange and banana peels on my back seat.
Oh,
It's
wow.
like, yeah, you couldn't talk.
Crazy.
All he did was talk about himself. But that was my first show. I was in a tag match with my trainer under a hood, Teddy, and another guy against me and a student. And that man, you talk about within 6 months, Ted Petty, gave me and a guy by the name of David G, the masked Russian, the Volvo van with the ring, and said, take these dates and you go up New England. And like a couple times a year, we'd be gone for 11 days. We go up Burlington, Vermont. We were all up that way by the
The Northeast.
yeah, but up by Lake. I forget what lake was up there. Whatever's up there by Burlington, Vermont. And it was great because I mean we literally go to the building. I say it's day one, Thursday night. We used to do Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So Thursday, it's Thursday night. We get to the building. We set up the ring. We train in the ring. We go back to the hotel or the truck, depending on what if we were leaving at night, how far of a ride, and then go relax. Go back to the building, work the show, tear the ring down, put it in the truck, and either sleep somewhere, or go to a hotel, or go to the next spot. You know, and it was great. It was the best thing I ever did. I excelled very, very quickly. Like, let's put it this way: I could do a kip up. They call it a nip up now. There's a kip up. Before I knew anything about wrestling, we had tumbling, and I could lift flat back without using my hands and kip up. So even though I got bigger and more muscular, I did so much stuff all along that journey of 90, 110, 110 pounds that I always acclimated to it. You know what I'm saying? I,
Yeah, you
I,
progressed. It was a
yeah,
seamless transition because you were in weightlifting and you had grown up around athletics, so it was a
yeah.
natural fit.
And, I was very lucky that way. And we talk about the people I came up with. Forget about it. The people that helped me. I mean, you got Larry Sharpe, you got Johnny Rodz, you got Davey O'Hannon, Ted Petty, Bobby Boldy. I knew these guys since I was a kid, except for Teddy. He's only a few years older than me. But to this day, I just went up to a wake for a guy by the name of Pete Reeves. Now, you would have to know the history. He was a jobber kind of guy, and the reason he used the name Pete Reeves was he had a little black goatee and he looked kind of like Steve Reeves, the old bodybuilder guy. And became friends with him. I'd go over when he was at his aunt's house. I'd go hang out and talk to him about wrestling. And then years later, I brought him to one of my shows and gave him an award, and he was in tears. He was like, "I can't believe you're that little kid that used to come over and bug me about wrestling." And I'm like, "See, this is what it's about. When you're in this business and you find out that some dude is in a locker room, isn't in it or didn't get in it the same way you did and doesn't even know much history. And you could throw a big name that he should know out there and he wouldn't know." And I'm like, "Why are you doing this? We don't need people like you. If it's not in your heart, you don't love it, you didn't, you don't get into wrestling at 30, 25, 30 years old if you weren't a fan? How does that happen? Those are the guys who don't make it." You know what I'm saying? Because I think you have to know about it. You have to want to know about it. I have a book upstairs, 1930s Alabama, 1930s,
Hmm.
telling you all the matches that were recorded and who was the promoter. And it just grew from there. And I enjoy that. I don't care. I'm not going to win I probably could win a trivia or, historical questions, but it's not the point. The point is, you should be well versed in every way you can if you're doing this, trying to make a living at it.